Welcome back, scholars, to our Digital Academy. I am Professor Spark. Whether we are turning the pages of a timeless novel, our mission remains the same. Will today's sweep us into the concert hall? Let's find out together.
Welcome to this explainer on Leo Tolstoy's absolute mammoth of a masterpiece, Anna Karenina. Today we're unpacking a sprawling, intricately woven web of love, high society, and the deeply human search for meaning. We are going to explore one of the most profound psychological studies and panoramic portraits of 19th century Russian society ever written. We'll pull apart the layers to see exactly why it remains so fiercely relevant to us today. Let's dive in.
We've got to start with one of the most famous opening lines in literally all of literature. All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. It's such a brilliant hook, right? Because it just nails that raw, often messy reality of domestic life. It sets the stage perfectly for the deeply personal tragedies and hard-won triumphs we're about to witness.
So, where does it all kick off? Well, the story actually ignites in Moscow with a house in complete disorder. Stiva has been caught cheating on his wife Dolly, and their marriage is in absolute ruins. This whole domestic crisis brings Stiva's sister, the elegant, deeply intelligent, and remarkably beautiful Anna Karenina, to town to act as a peacemaker. She arrives to play the wise, steadying hand, completely oblivious to the fact that she's about to step into a massive, devastating disaster of her own. Talk about irony.
Okay, let's look at the key players caught in this impending storm. We've got Anna, of course, and her emotionally icy, reputation-obsessed husband, Alexei Karenin. Then there's Count Vronsky, this dashing young cavalry officer who's actually busy courting the romantic Kitty. And finally, Konstantin Levin, a wealthy, kind of socially awkward but incredibly genuine guy who is completely head over heels for Kitty. As you'll see, their lives are about to get hopelessly tangled up through two vastly different romantic paths.
To really get what Tolstoy is doing here, we have to examine the dual narrative he builds. It's like a giant mirror. On one side, we have the path of passion with Anna and Vronsky, a deeply tragic downward spiral. On the other side, we have the path of purpose with Levin and Kitty, a much more grounded, gradual climb into maturity. Basically, everything Tolstoy wants us to understand about life is hidden in the contrast between these two couples.
Part 1, Path 1, The Tragedy of Passion.
It all starts at a railway station. Anna and Vronsky lock eyes, and boom, there is this immediate, magnetic attraction that completely blows up Kitty's expectations of her proposal. But right at that exact moment, a railway worker is tragically killed under a train. It's this chilling, dark shadow that heavily foreshadows the tragedy to come. It's pretty staggering when you realize how brilliantly Tolstoy plants this heavy seed of dread right at the spark of their romance.
Now, as their affair heats up, it absolutely crashes into the hypocrisy of 19th century society. And the double standard here, it's just wild. For men, infidelity gets a wink and a nod. They easily keep their status, no problem. But for a woman like Anna, she faces brutal judgment, absolute social exile, and the loss of her legal rights. And the thing is, she becomes the ultimate outcast mainly because she fiercely refuses to just hide it.
The tension finally explodes at this famous military horse race. Vronsky takes a bad fall, his horse is fatally injured, and Anna's open display of terror in the stands totally exposes their affair to everyone. She reveals her emotional truth to this harsh, judgmental crowd that cares way more about appearances than actual reality. Her husband, Karenin, literally just asks her to keep up the facade. But Anna, well, she simply can't live a lie anymore.
From that point on, it becomes an inescapable trap. We go from that first meeting to her pregnancy and confession, the fateful horse race, an attempt to escape and start over in Europe, and finally, complete social isolation. See, when Karenin refuses a divorce, Anna is completely boxed in. She loses her legal rights, her social standing, and most agonizingly, she is permanently separated from her beloved son. You can literally feel the claustrophobia closing in on her. Before we reach the end of her path, we really need to unpack a recurring symbol here, the train. The railway represents the unstoppable force of modern life, industrial progress, and just profound emotional alienation. Much like how modern tech can make us feel isolated today, the railway is the literal engine of fate for Anna. It perfectly frames her tragic arc from that very first fatal meeting to her final heartbreaking moments.
Trapped in utter isolation, unable to formally marry Vronsky, Anna is consumed by this toxic, addictive jealousy. Her whole perception gets totally distorted by fear and loneliness. Feeling completely abandoned and stripped of all her rights, her story ends in unspeakable tragedy. Unable to imagine any future happiness or a way out of her pain, she throws herself beneath an approaching train, bringing that heavy train symbolism to a devastating close.
Part 2. Path 2. The Grounding of Purpose. Okay, let's take a collective deep breath here and pivot away from the tragic intensity of the city gossip. Let's talk about Levin. He is essentially Tolstoy's own fictional alter ego. Actually, fun fact, his first name is Lev, the Russian version of Leo. Levin wrestles deeply with the massive question we still face today. What gives life meaning? He's desperately trying to figure out how to live in an age of intense doubt and whether lasting happiness can even exist without absolute certainty.
While Anna chased this overwhelming fiery passion, Levin finds something incredibly different. After Kitty recovers from the deep heartbreak of losing Vronsky, she matures. She and Levin eventually marry, and guys, it's a wonderfully realistic romance. No fairy tales here. They have petty misunderstandings, money stress, family tension, but through those ordinary, sometimes straight-up boring struggles, their relationship deepens into a profound, genuine companionship. It's a remarkably modern depiction of marriage.
So how does Levin finally cure his existential dread? Well, following the birth of his son, he undergoes a profound spiritual awakening. But it's probably not what you'd expect. He realizes that true meaning isn't hiding in some perfect philosophy or intellectual dogma. It's actually found in chopping wood, managing his farm, serving others, and deeply loving his family. He figures out that embracing simple moral responsibility and ordinary goodness is the truest path to fulfillment.
Part 3. The Overarching Themes.
When you put these two couples side by side, Tolstoy's core message brilliantly crystallizes. Anna and Vronsky show us that fiery, overwhelming desire eventually just burns down into insecurity and dependency if it has no foundation. Contrast that with Levin and Kitty, who build a mature love based on patience, honesty, and shared responsibility. Tolstoy is basically telling us that passionate romantic love alone simply cannot sustain a fulfilling life. Lasting happiness takes humility, commitment, and mutual growth.
We also get 3 very distinct perspectives on marriage itself. You've got Karenina, who treats it strictly as a rigid social contract. Anna desperately wants it to be this vessel for pure emotional authenticity at all costs. And then there's Levin, who learns that it's a partnership requiring daily acts of sacrifice. Tolstoy isn't just preaching a single ideal. He's showing us marriage from all these angles, proving that love isn't just a fleeting emotion, it's an active, continual moral endeavor.
Part 4. Tragedy, Hope, and Legacy.
As we wrap up, look at how the novel masterfully juxtaposes these 2 distinct endings. On one hand, you have the devastating consequences of isolation, jealousy, and pure despair in Anna's death, a really stark warning about societal cruelty and unchecked passion. On the other hand, you have Levin's awakening, the quiet realization of a meaningful life grounded in everyday moral action. It highlights a timeless tension we all still face today, the tug-of-war between rigid societal pressures, our desire for emotional authenticity, and the power of our own personal daily choices. Which brings us to the end of our journey today. And I want to leave you with this lingering question inspired by Tolstoy's masterpiece. How do you measure a meaningful life? Do you measure it through the pursuit of absolute, passionate certainty? Or is it found in the quiet grace of everyday responsibility? Think about that as you reflect on the paths of Anna and Levin. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and keep exploring.